Hey, everybody. It's JW from Sober Militia blog and podcast. It's also attached to my xtopwriting.com. I'm here with Melissa and Misha today, and I think we have someone else coming, but we're kind of waiting for them to show up. But we wanted to have a little happy hour discussion for our celebration of Friday and talk a little bit about some sobriety and some of the writing we're doing. And so I'm just going to let Melissa and Misha introduce themselves. Melissa, you want to start?
I'm Melissa. I'm an alcoholic. I do a few things with my writing. I write a daily letter on a subscription list every day through this online community I have called The Circle. And I also have a friend and I developing a story that will be interpreted across a few platforms. That's in development right now. And a lot of writing I do just through the posts I do on Instagram. I always see that as a great opportunity to just get like a small little blurb of prose, to just treat everything. To me, everything is like poetry. Everything can be poetry, and so that's how I take that on.
Awesome. Yeah, and I get your motivational words when you send those out. They're really nice. I appreciate them.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Misha?
Do I start talking?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. Hi, I'm Misha. I'm also an alcoholic, I guess. I've never even said that out loud. So weird. But yeah. As far as my writing, I share my sobriety journey, which I'm now 10 months sober, so I'm still new. But I share it through my Instagram and my Facebook, and I just started a blog, and it's at mishabrink.com. And I just share where I've been when I was active in my addiction and where I am now and where I want to go, I guess, to hopefully inspire other people that are either struggling in addiction right now or who are struggling in sobriety or whatever the case may be, that there are ways of dealing with it, and somebody who has been in a really bad place and could get through it like I did, hopefully maybe that will show somebody else that they can do it too. So
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's kind of fun to, to get to know people in the community as we start to, get it more involved. And that's kind of what happened for me. So I'm newer than all of you. So I started in January, and what I found was that my sobriety came pretty easy. And I attribute that a lot to just how I approached it. I really shifted my mindset on how I looked at alcohol, and it really just made me not want anything to do with it. But part of what I did was just start writing. And so I made a deal with myself that I was going to write a blog every day, the day I quit drinking. And so I was going to do it for 30 days and just see how that went. And 30 days came and went. And I was like, man, this is kind of cool. I like this, And so I said, I'm going to keep going. And then I kept going. And I thought, what I'll do? I'm going to do 101 days. It just sounded right. And so I did my 101 days of sobriety. And that started going so well. I'm like, man, I'm just got to keep it going. So I have not missed a day since January 19th of writing in my blog. And I decided I'm going to turn my first 101 days, I'm going to compile that into a book and do some reflections on what I was going through during that time and see if I can make a book out of it. And I'm also writing a novel. But like I said, I also do my blog every day. I'm right now in the midst of doing a core beliefs series where I try to look at different core beliefs that kind of affect how we approach sobriety, and see if we can, spin them, take a different look on, how we're looking at those core beliefs that are keeping us held back, and that's been a lot of fun. So do that with my podcast, and that's it's about it. So the idea with this whole thing, guys, it's just, I don't know where I came up with it. I was like, I want to do something. I want to play around a little bit and get to know some more people, and maybe have a little fun with this idea of talking about sobriety and the writing aspect. And so I invited a few of you guys to come on and just see how things go. So looks like we got JT just joined us. JT, we're just kind of introduced each other, and we're talking about where we are in our sobriety and what we are doing in terms of, I think you told me you're not necessarily doing writing, but what you're doing as far as support in the community. Does he hear me? JT, do you hear me? He gave me a thumbs up.
Okay.
There you are. Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Cool. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I was having some technical issues.
That's all right. So we're just introducing ourselves, talking about where we are in our sobriety and, what we're doing in the community. I know you said you are not really doing writing, but I know you're doing some work in the community. So go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know what you're up to.
Sure. My name is JT. What am I doing in the community? Well, first of all, I got sober 16 months ago yesterday. It's weird. As far as in the community, I just started this process. Like I knew I wanted to discuss like the kind of my journey. Not that it was that much different than I think a lot of other people's, but I had a studio in my house because I have a whole separate podcast. So I figured, hey, what the hell? Let's just start throwing some audio down and see what happens. So it was actually something I was just doing on my own. I didn't even know what I was going to do with it. I think it was just like, instead of journaling, it was just a way of just talking some of the stuff out. So then I said, what the hell? And I started this thing called, I have this idea of like the consequences of our habits. Like, what do we do on an everyday basis? And is it something that lifts us up, or is it something that's been an issue? So for me, obviously alcohol had been an issue, and I had a lot of repercussions, a lot of consequences for my habits. So once I stopped drinking, I realized like my life got way better, but there was still a bunch of other things. Like, to me, drinking is just, it's part of the problem. It's like a mindset for me, is my default mode. Drinking was a way of escaping that. And I can find other ways to escape it that I don't need chemicals. So that's really the process, was me just trying to talk about that, put that out in the open. Because as soon as I started talking to coworkers and things a little bit, and I would open up just a little bit, I found a lot of people coming up to me at first saying, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, what is this thing you're trying to do? And then eventually going, hey, I need help too. Like, what's your journey? Like, how did that work for you? And if, a lot of the same questions I'm sure I was asking when I was kind of dipping my toes in the process of deciding whether I wanted to get sober or not. So yeah, that's a nutshell, I guess.
Awesome. So do you have an active podcast going about sobriety right now?
I do.
Okay.
It's called Consequence of Habit.
Okay.
It's not going to be all recovery. Like I said, because some of it's just I've got a lot of character flaws. I have other habits and I have good habits too, right? So I have good things that I can share that have worked for me, and I'm trying to I love to get other people on to talk about what they're doing, whether good or bad, and hopefully learn from each other on what's working for people and what's not working.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I think one of the things I found real quick when I got into the community is the idea that it's all in how we look at this process, and for some this process is very difficult and very hard. For others like myself, it's been I literally call it easy. And I have this kind of idea that there's a difference between easy and hard sobriety, and I'm trying to figure it out, and that's part of why I've gotten so involved in all this and why I'm doing this, is to learn more from everybody and kind of figure out what is it, what is the difference? How can it be so different, for different individuals? But so one of the things I was going to put out to you guys is in my, I do some online meetings through my Facebook group, and it's called Militia 2020 as well. And, what I try to always say is like, let's stay on the positive side of things, because it's really easy to like, hey, I was a complete screw up, and talk about all the stuff I screwed up, and I can do that for 35 minutes. And then the last 5 minutes of my share, I can be positive. And I'm like, let's kind of flip that a little bit. Let's be more positive about it. You know what I mean? And kind of like, what can we take away from each other that does work and that we can look forward to if we haven't quite gotten there, and that kind of a thing. Right. Yeah. So what I would put out right now is, and because, JT, we are talking a little bit about writing too, is that athletic?
It is.
That's my favorite. So I'm doing, this is called Partake.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask you guys if you guys brought anything for happy hour. So the non-alcoholic beers, if you guys haven't done it yet. What do you got, Melissa? Water?
Water. It's my new vodka.
Nice. You're doing water. That's too funny. It's Friday. I got to have a non-alcoholic beer. And so JT, you can kind of take this however you want on the writing piece whenever we talk about the writing, okay? And kind of maybe go with how you're feeling about your podcast. But what I would say is, Melissa, what is your favorite part? And there's a lot of them, and I know this is a hard question, but what's your favorite part of sobriety? And with that, what is your favorite part of writing? So if you're trying to convince somebody and you had one thing to say for each, what would you say?
Well, man. Well, I would have to definitely say, because I haven't just recovered from alcoholism, I've also recovered from borderline personality disorder, and I'm recovering from post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
My favorite part of sobriety is feeling like I can trust people. Okay. And that's the very PTSD related. And then also that I feel fulfilled. I used to get very attached to people, and I would be in their shadow, and that's how I would get fulfilled. It's kind of like by osmosis. It would just kind of by being attached to them. So for sure, just being fulfilled. And then my favorite part about writing is that I kind of see it as like, there's two different ways I write. There's like the puzzle way, where it kind of comes out in sort of jigsaw pieces, and then I assemble it. And then there's the way where it's just like just sort of comes out. I feel like when I've sat with something, like I wrote a guest blog for someone today, and when I just sit with those experiences enough and meditate on them enough, and then it just feels like they're a point where it just like it shoots out. And I just like that it's just very cathartic. It's my favorite part of writing, that it's cathartic.
Well, they're fun. Both of those are fun in different ways, right? Like when it just falls out, I call it vomiting on the page. It's kind of fun because you're not really doing any work, right? But then there's kind of the when it is a puzzle and you're trying to put it together, then that becomes more creative too, right? So they're both kind of fun. Yeah, I like it. Good. And then so you talked about both. Yeah, Misha, what do you got?
Okay, can you ask me the questions again?
For sure.
Okay.
So what I was saying is as you know, you're getting into writing. So it sounds like you're a little new to the writing, or have you been, okay, so you're a little new to it.
Yeah.
And what is your favorite part of writing so far that you found? And what is your favorite part of sobriety?
Okay. My favorite part of writing would have to be that it's therapeutic for me. Oh my goodness, my child. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
But it's therapeutic for me, and I feel like it comes natural. Okay, go sit on the toilet, please. Oh my God, I am so sorry. But I also feel like it's my way of expressing to others like what I've been through, and it's my way of like communicating with others. I feel like I do that better than talking. Like I feel like my writing is a better communication tool for me than talking. And my favorite part of sobriety would have to be being able to be a better mom, I guess. That's like the main thing for me. And as you can see, like my life is crazy, and alcohol, when I was drinking, it just added to the chaos. So now I have more sanity, I guess, if you can understand that. So that would have to be my favorite part.
Cool. All right, JT, how's it been for you so far?
It's been awesome. I mean, I was just talking about this yesterday. For me, it runs my family, right? Like my parents, my grandparents. I mean, we drank for everything. We drank for celebrate, to mourn, because it was a day of the week. Like it was never, didn't. So me, it's an overall sense of pride that there was this thing that's always been in my life that I kind of just naturally went to because that's what you did when you got to a certain age. And then I was in the military. In the military, that's what you did. And then just so it's an overall sense of pride that there's this thing that I've overcome it, but I'm managing it, and so I would say that's probably my favorite part, with a caveat that I also, now that the further I get away from drinking, the more I can recognize when I'm not, my mind is not in the right place. Like I can tell, like if I'm seeking, I was comparing it to like this itch that I just need to scratch. Like I'm bouncing around a little bit in my brain, and I need an outlet, and I don't even. It just isn't alcohol. Like I know that that's just not for me. So I don't even know if I'm really answering this question, but yeah, I guess sense of pride would be the overall whelming thing, and just getting up and not feeling like crap. Like that's. I was still active. Like I was still a really active guy when I was drinking. I was just happened to be doing a lot of things hungover. That sucks. So yeah.
So how about with the podcast? What's your favorite part of using the podcast as a way to reach people?
Probably just like I've read I've read the stuff you guys have put out, and shame goes away when it's out there and it's out in the open. That sense of always hiding is not there anymore. And there's something about being honest, and other people can relate to that because they're doing it. A lot of people are. Everyone's just good at hiding it.
Yeah.
So that would probably be my favorite part, is just putting stuff, like shedding light on stuff that a lot of, especially now, right? I mean, a lot of people are struggling right now.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. For me, let's see, for sobriety, goodness. I mean, like I said, I even said that when I put the question out there. It's a hard question because there's so much. I think for me, the most obvious thing I'd have to say is the change in my desire to succeed. I just gained all this energy and these desires to set goals and get out there and start doing things. And writing was a big part of that. I wrote years ago, and I had some kind of bad feedback that really kind of set me back, and I quit for probably 7 years. And when I picked it up again for this day one of quitting drinking, I just immediately fell back in love with it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this, So that was part of my, just that motivation piece, waking up every day. I do it the first thing in the morning. I could never have done that before, and I was a lot like EJT. I was very active. I was what I call an extremely functional alcoholic. I never got myself into much trouble. I never lost my job, any of that kind of stuff, but I was pretty miserable all the time. So that kind of rebirth, I think, is my favorite part of quitting. And then writing, I think they just kind of go hand in hand. So I think Melissa said this too. I'm actually kind of a quiet person, and I'm not one to really express my opinions that often. But in writing, I'm much more able to say what I want to say, and a little less fearful. It's kind of like you just put it out there and just let it be, let it be out there. And I've been exploring that a little bit more and more with my blog. I just recently stepped away from sobriety and wrote kind of what I was feeling about what's going on in the world today. And I was really tentative to put it out there. And I finally said, screw it. And I put it out there, and it got some pretty good feedback. But yeah, just being able to use my voice, in a way that I'm not able to do verbally. So that's my favorite part of writing. So let's see, how about experiences? Somebody put one out the other day that was like, what's an experience that you had with sobriety or before sobriety that was kind of like the turning point that really made you understand that it is for you? I'm talking about the sobriety part, that you knew you would be able to do it. Was there a time or a thing that happened that really clicked for you? Melissa, you want to start on that?
Oh man, yeah. Well, so convenient because I feel like I've talked about it the last couple of days.
Oh, that's funny.
In other places, so this is good. Yeah, again, because I had 2 other diagnoses underlying. Definitely made staying sober harder for me. I would say one of the big turning points for me is I went to go see my best friend speak in Calgary. She's a motivational, or not a motivational speaker, she's a keynote speaker. And while I was out there, we had like this really great, just like one-on-one like lunch together. And of course, she can hit the nail on the head all the time with she just knows me so well. She can just get things spot on. And we talked about a lot of heavy things I still had to work through. a lot of things I still had to clean myself up with. But the great thing about talking to like a best friend about that is that there's like so much encouragement that comes with that. And after that conversation, I finally felt empowered to start making, because I was still making a lot of codependent choices at that time, to start making a lot of independent choices for myself, regardless of the consequences. And so that became a huge turning point for me, where I was starting to genuinely do things that were terrifying me because I knew they'd get me well. And so I would definitely say that lunch with my best friend was the turning point for me.
Awesome.
Where the timeline changed. So
Very cool. Yeah. That's great. Misha, how about you?
So I was thinking about this. This isn't the first time like I've tried to get sober. I've struggled with this since I was 14. I'm now 26. But I've tried before, and so when I got pregnant with my son, I was sober the entire time I was pregnant, but then once I like a month after he was born, I went back into my addiction, and it was like chaotic for my life. And I just I prayed for an answer. Like I prayed to God that if he gave me a DUI, I know it's the weirdest thing ever, but I prayed for a DUI, and I said, if you give me this DUI, I will never touch alcohol and I was using weed heavily too at the time. And I said, if you give this to me, I will never touch alcohol or drugs again. And I'm not kidding you. It is so weird how this happened. The next day I got a DUI. Like
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so that moment for me was it. I was like, okay, like this is the sign. I'm done. So like
that's uncanny.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. And that was the day. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. JT, how about you?
My turning point. Mine was kind of gradual. There wasn't like a set thing. I had kind of dabbled my toes in. I started trying to go some meetings to see what they were like. But I kept finding reasons that I wasn't one of them in the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I was like you, I was highly functional. And so I could look at other people and go, man, these people are messed up. Like I'm not you.
Yeah.
But I am. My repercussions were different. And I was almost jealous of people like that. Like the ones that if they drank, their life fell apart because there was a black and white. Like you can either do it or you can't. If you do it, you're in jail. You're in a bad way. Where I could kind of pretend on both. And I as a joke would say it's like being murdered with a wiffle ball bat. Like it just takes a really long time. Like it's just these little hits all the time.
Yeah.
So I was having issues at home, and that's where I say consequence of habit. And it's also some of the most important things in my life almost going away. So I was like, you know what? I really need to make a change. And I was very lucky. So there was I do a lot of rock climbing, and there was a guy at this climbing gym, and he said to me, I can smell my own. Like I can see this guy. I'm like, I think he might be in recovery. And he never said a word to me about it. And I was talking to him one day. His name's Chris. I said, hey, Chris, I said, think about, I'm trying to get back into shape. I said, I'm thinking about not drinking. I said, do you drink? He goes, I've been sober for 14 years through AA. And it was one of the first times it was somebody I knew and looked up to. And it wasn't somebody that I met at a meeting who had this horror story. Like this guy, I knew him, I see him every day.
Yeah.
And from that day on, he texts me at between 5:30 and 6:15 in the morning. So that's been 16 months. He's been doing that every single day.
Wow.
It's like this love I got from somebody else today. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know each other like that. So that was kind of, I would say probably that was my turning point. Just to have somebody else. And that was in the person I could like I could tell. I could tell my secrets. I could tell anything I wanted. And I remember I was telling him, we were on our way to a climbing trip, and I was telling him something, um, which I would have told somebody else who I drank with, and they would have been like, that's nothing. And I told him, and he turned to me and he goes, well, you're one sick puppy. I was like, oh, okay. And he called me out, and he calls me out on my BS now, because I can, one of my coping mechanisms from childhood stuff is I can talk a good game. Like, I can manipulate, I can talk.
Yeah.
That's why I have a podcast and I don't write.
That's funny.
But he can see through it. So that would be, I guess almost losing, stuff that's the most important things in my life. So
yeah. That's great. That's awesome. I'd say for me, it was the writing really was the turning point. Once I started writing, it became I don't know, it was almost like I had to, I never had cravings, because like every day I just got up and the first thing I thought about was writing about what I was feeling, And so I think that really was the biggest, but I can also point out a couple of things that were pretty neat and kind of funny to me as far as I'm concerned. But my wife and I quit at the same time. And my wife, she quit. Well, we were supposed to quit at the same time. So I had quit nicotine like 2 months before, and so when our quit date came, she left and went out of town, and I called her that night and I said, I can't do it. I was like, I just can't do it right now, because nicotine was kicking my butt. And she's like, it's all right, just do it when you're ready. So she stayed on her path. I waited about 13 days, and I finally said, screw it, I got to deal with it. And so I did. And she was reading This Naked Mind. I don't know if you've heard of that book by Annie Grace. And she was loving it. So I picked it up and started reading it on day one too. When I started writing and everything, I kind of did everything on day one. And she said a couple of things that just hit me, man. And the one was that alcohol is the only drug you have to make an excuse not to do. That pissed me off. I'm like, that is just absurd. And then especially when you experience it in the real world, like the first time you go out with people and you're not drinking and they are, and it's the weirdest feeling, right? And you have to tell them, and it's like, you have to think about, how am I going to do it? And like, why do we have to do that? I'm like, that is just not, it just made me mad. So that bothered me. And then the next thing that happened that really was a tipping point, and it may not sound like a big deal, but it was huge for me, was I went on a Tuesday night to my bowling league. I do bowling. And I walked into the bar, and of course it was like, cheers. They know me by name. They say, hey, John, what's going on? And I walk up to the bar, and she starts to pour my Bodhisattva, IPA. And I'm like, hey, no, I'm not drinking. And she's like, oh, you're not feeling well? And I said, no, I just, I quit. I decided to quit drinking. And her and two of the servers in unison all said, oh, don't be a quitter. And I remember thinking, really? Is it really that big of a thing, And so from that moment, that's why I kind of called this the actual turning point. It was from that moment when I started really paying attention. And everywhere I go, every commercial, every movie, every book I read, watching how we just perpetuate the use of alcohol to an extent that is absurd. And the more I started paying attention to it, the more I'm just like, I got nothing. I don't want anything to do with it. So it was really the biggest thing for me, was that kind of like just that recognition of what we're doing with alcohol from a young age, even, you know what I mean? So that was huge for me. So it's been a journey, but I've been having a ball with it. And that's one of the things I tell people when they're struggling. I'm like, hey, when you're out with people, just look around you. Just take a moment and look around you. Because if you start seeing it, you're going to start seeing that is not something I want to do. Okay, so we're going to try to keep these around a half hour. So let's do one more quick one about writing. I was going to say, how about how have you found sobriety to affect your creativity? Because, we've all heard that famous quote that never happened that says, write drunk and edit sober, by Ernest Hemingway. And that apparently never happened, which I think is kind of funny. But people talk about it all the time, right? Like, write drunk and, be more creative. What has been your experience as far as your creativity with sobriety? Melissa?
I would say, well, I've always been a creative, so I've been writing, and I did art for a long time, and theater, and so I've always been creative. But a conclusion I came to in my sobriety was that my art used to be more mathematical than sincere, and by that I've always had a very calculated mind in terms of I just am naturally strategic. And so I was very strategic with my art and very strategic with my writing. And the more I've rewired my brain and become living more in my heart and in my soul than in my head, I would say it's become sincere. So my writing has become very sincere. So rather me thinking of what I think people want me to say,
Yeah.
or maybe what's trending, and then maybe let me just, kind of rephrase something that's trending to get people to like it. I'm more concerned about sharing what's on my heart and what I want to share with people, no matter if they reject it or not, versus me tailoring something so craftily that to get everybody to like it. So sincerity. It's writing has become very sincere.
That's actually quite beautiful. Thank you. Misha?
So I guess I never knew I could write. I mean, I never thought I was creative. I never felt like I had a purpose. So I guess like my writing, I mean, I've been told, like I used to journal like for myself when I was going in therapy and all this stuff, when I was still active in my addiction. So, and like one of my sessions, I had to read like my journal or whatever. And like my therapist told me, he's like, that is one of the best ones I've read or I've ever listened to. And I'm like, oh, okay, like whatever. Like, I don't know. So, but anyways, I just started writing like when I got sober. So,
Cool.
I guess like I don't really have a comparison as to like what it was like for me when I was not sober, because I just started. So, but I guess I can.
That's a testament in itself, though, right?
I guess, yeah.
Right? You were never being creative before, and then you quit drinking, and all of a sudden you have all this creativity pouring out of you, right?
Right. I never thought of it that way. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's been, I guess, a motivation for me to stay sober, and it helps me stay sober because when I'm talking about it and helping other people through that, it just makes me feel like, well, why the heck would I ever go back to how I was before? So, yeah, I guess I don't know if I answered the question correctly, but
No, that sounds great. I think that's, like I said, I think that's a perfect testament right there. Going from no creativity to a lot of creativity just because of one thing. And I think that's pretty awesome. How about you, JT? What are you feeling there?
No, I feel just as creative. I think I feel just as creative. I know I accomplish more because like creativity, I would just wait for it to come around. It would be, if it wasn't a spontaneous thing. And with that said, I mean, I was do stand-up comedy too. So I was really nervous about that part of it. Like if I was going to do a club or something that if I didn't have a couple of drinks in me, that would go terrible. But it wasn't. It was actually easier. I actually felt sharper. So, and I am more. So I get up in the morning fairly early. I try to, especially recently, and I'll try and work then, like on creativity stuff, or as far as podcast stuff, or either reading or journaling or doing something kind of get me going, my creative side going. And I feel just as creative, and I think I just get more done because I'm not hungover. Make it simple. I just can I'm more productive because I'm not drunk or hungover, and there's not bookmarks at the beginning of my day because I don't feel good, so I don't do something till a certain point. And then there's not something that says at 5 o'clock I'm done doing anything because
time to drink.
Yeah, time set aside for something else.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. The creativity part, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like I've always kind of had that in me, but here's the thing that I can't get over. Like I said, I started writing. I made a deal with myself to start blogging. And if anybody's read my blogs, they're a little longer than they're supposed to be, and I'm aware of that. But it's because I just love it so much, But the thing that's really got me is that I keep waiting to run out of things to say. Every morning I get up and I'm like, all right, what am I going to write about? And at first I'm like, oh, is this the day? Is this the day I lose it? And then I'll come up with an idea and I'll sit down and I'll hammer out 1,000 words and do my podcast with it and move on. And I've been doing that. I don't even know what day I'm on anymore because I've been having so much fun with the writing piece, but I don't know, 140, 150 or something like that. So 150 blogs without even thinking about it, and plus a book in the middle of that. I wrote a book in the middle of that. And so I think from the creative side, I cannot believe how much I have coming out since I quit. And it's awesome. I'm just having a ball. I love it so much. So that's part of my excitement in this whole thing. So let's go ahead.
I'm sorry. Are you guys doing 12 steps too, or you guys are just?
I'm not. No. Yeah, I did it on my own. Yeah, I think Melissa was part of that. Yeah, or still is. Yeah, and Misha, you're not either. No. Yeah. Let's do this, guys. Let's wrap it up with some shameless plugs. So go around, just tell us where we can find you. Okay. And then make sure you guys send this to me. You can do it on the Twitter feed there with me. So I can put that as part of the video when I put this out, but go and let us know where we can find you. Melissa?
Sure. On Twitter, I'm at We Are the Circle 1, and the R is just the letter R. Yep. And then on Instagram, it's We Are the Circle. And I think that's where you can find me right now.
Awesome. Misha?
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Well, Instagram's Misha Brink. Facebook is A Sober Mom's Journey. I just started a page there. And my website is mishabrink.com.
Awesome. JT?
You can find me on Instagram. It's just Consequence of Habit. I'm on Twitter. I don't do it very much on there. And then on all the iTunes, like it's on Apple, whatever they're where you get the podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the ones under just Consequence of Habit. So okay. It's a new project for me, so I'm only four episodes in right now. So, but one of them is just dedicated strictly to recovery. Actually, 3 of them are, but one of them was with a recovery specialist and blew me away. So
awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place, but mine's kind of easy because I was able to use the same thing all the way through. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all at xstopwriting. My website is xstopwriting.com. And my sober blog is within my website. So if you go to xstopwriting.com, you'll find my sober blog. And I also have a sober group on Facebook called Sober Militia 2020. And you can check me out there. So what do you guys think? Is this something you think we could do again? Would you guys be interested in that?
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I think we can invite more people.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I just wanted to throw it out and see what it works, see how people feel about it. And then, we'll put it out into the, internet universe and see how people respond. But let's just go ahead and we'll call it a Friday kind of thing. And if you guys can come, let me know. And if not, we'll try to get some other people and just kind of have some fun with it. Okay.
Awesome. I appreciate you very much putting this thing together. This is great.
Yeah. Thank you guys for coming. It's been really cool. I think this went better than I even expected. So I'm really happy.
Awesome. It was very nice meeting you all.
All right. We'll see you guys next Friday.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.